Welcome to the Clique podcast. I'm Dani Watson, a mindset and manifestation expert and founder of the Clique, a company that helps women overcome their fears and limiting beliefs to create a life and business that they love. Within this podcast, I will help you get clear on what you want, identify the blocks that are holding you back, transform your mindset and raise your vibration so that you can co-create magic with the universe. If you are looking to design a life that truly sets your soul on fire and manifest more success and abundance, then you are in the right place. Hello ladies, happy Monday. I hope you all had a brilliant weekend. I'm going to start this episode by sharing a little bit of news, which if any of you follow me on Instagram, you may have already seen. I made an announcement over the weekend that I am in fact pregnant again. So I am expecting my third baby. So it's a little girl that is due in August. And I thought it would be a good opportunity to actually talk a little bit more about embracing whatever season you are in. Because this was definitely something that always comes up for me, especially when I first get pregnant and my energy levels are super, super low and I'm tired and I'm not feeling great. Luckily, I'm kind of way into my second trimester now, so all of that has sort of passed. But definitely at the beginning of all of my pregnancies, I really didn't have the motivation to do anything. And I remember the first time this happened to me and I got so frustrated because I had so many things that I wanted to do. So when I first got pregnant with my first child, which is my daughter, Rafi, I was at a stage in my business where I was really ready for the next level of growth. And I had so many things that were sort of new projects on the pipeline. And lots of really exciting things were happening in my business. And I really did not anticipate how I was going to feel in those early days where I just felt so tired, so exhausted, and I was very, very sick as well. And I just didn't appreciate that was going to happen. And I got really frustrated because I thought, I've got all of this stuff that I really want to get done. And it also kind of felt like I had all of this time pressure on myself as well, because I wanted to do as much as I could before Rafi came along. And so what I kind of want to dive into is how when something goes on in our life, so, it might be getting pregnant or it might be some other major life event that perhaps throws you a bit of a curveball in terms of your plans, in terms of what you want to be giving your energy to, and it leaves you feeling like it's taken you out of the game a little bit. So, maybe it's sickness, maybe it's a family member who needs your support or a friend, or something else comes up and all of a sudden the plans that you have in place either get put on hold or they slow down or you just don't have the energy to really commit. How can we embrace that season? And I'm calling it a season because I think that's a far more empowering way to look at that chapter of your life, as a season. So often we kind of think of it as perhaps a downturn, or, we're a setback, we're being held back, or we're slowing down, or we're losing momentum. We often perceive these times, we sort of describe them in a very negative way. I've got sick, therefore things have slowed down and I've lost momentum, or I've lost my motivation. We very much talk about these experiences from that place of lack. But by calling it a season, I feel that it gives it a bit of a more empowering narrative. Because just because you are slowing down, just because you are doing less, just because you are perhaps having to take your foot off the pedal for a little bit, is not necessarily a bad thing. So the first thing is to really kind of step away from judging that period in your life as a negative thing. Because negativity breeds more negativity, right? So if we are stuck in this cycle of thinking about this chapter of our life as this negative point, bad stuff's happened to me at the moment, I'm going through a bit of a rough patch, is often how people like to describe things, or I just don't have any motivation, it's just a bit of a crappy time for me at the moment. If we talk about our life in that way, that negative energy is just going to breed more negative things showing up. So it's learning to see the chapter that we are in and really embracing it for what it is, calling it a season. And the reason I like the word season is because season indicates that this is not going to last forever. Okay, just as winter turns into spring, so does your slow periods in your life. They can transition very quickly into periods of growth. And often we just have to ride out that season. Winter doesn't try and rush itself into spring. Typically, seasons follow a very regular pattern. After sort of 3 or 4 months, then things start to transition. Okay? And we kind of need to have the same sort of mentality when it comes to our own lives as well. Rather than trying to rush through the season that we are in and get out of the other side because we believe the other side is going to be better, how can we look at where we are at right now and think to ourselves, well, what is this time trying to teach me? How do I need this season for myself right now? Okay, what is the good that's perhaps coming from this season? And admittedly, there may be some points, there may be some experiences that some people go through, and it will be very, very difficult to find the light in the darkness. It might be very difficult to find, a lesson in, a hardship or, some sort of positive, to take some sort of positive away from something, a situation or an experience or a chapter that on every single level just feels so heavy, feels so negative. But there will be something there. Even in some of the most darkest and hardest experiences, there will be some glimmer of hope or a lesson or some sort of positivity for you to hone in on, for you to focus in on. Okay, and that is important, to sort of find the light within the darkness, even if it feels like where you are right now is not where you want to be. Now, I want to kind of bring it back to sort of seasons that you may go through where it may be, say, for example, like with me, getting pregnant and having that time where I just didn't have the energy to do anything. Maybe this is the same for you. Perhaps it's a new project you want to start, or, a business that you're starting, or anything. It could be anything that you kind of are excited to embark upon this new path, and something happens and, it derails you in some way. So let's just kind of talk about our energy for a second, because often this can show up in terms of, our energy has been zapped. So maybe we physically don't feel like showing up in the most powerful way. Maybe we are facing a lack of motivation. And I want you to know that sometimes this is actually completely normal. It doesn't always need to come off the back of a specific event. Okay, because I've had, obviously pregnancy is one of those things where you're naturally just going to feel quite tired. But I've definitely had these moments in my business, in my life, where all of a sudden I've just kind of felt quite flat and really just unmotivated. And I'm normally somebody, I'm very, very driven. I'm very motivated. I'm very much like, I love doing the doing, and I love kind of being in that really creative place. I thrive in that place, but there's definitely been times when I've just, for no reason whatsoever, seemingly, just felt quite flat, quite unmotivated, and just not really wanting to do anything. Now, because of what I know about self-sabotaging patterns of behavior, and I spoke about this actually last week on last week's episode, often when we find ourselves in patterns of self-sabotage, so maybe it's avoiding, doing the business things that that will move you forwards, or, procrastinating on your dreams. Often there can be a deep-rooted reason as to why we are not doing the things, okay? Why we're procrastinating. And often it's a case of really digging into, well, what am I afraid of? And, what is really stopping me from going to that next level? And I think there's definitely, it's something that you need to explore. Like, is this a pattern of self-sabotage that I'm experiencing here? But I think on the flip side of that, because of what I know, I've always had a tendency, if I'm ever not doing something, or if I'm ever feeling really unmotivated, because of my sort of coach background, my tendency is to want to always dig into the root cause and really think, well, why am I doing in this? And, how can I identify what the belief is here so that I can transform it? And that's good. And there's definitely a time when that is needed. But there's also a time when you may just be in that season of slowing down. And that is okay too. And you don't necessarily need to have a reason as to why you're self-sabotaging or why you're procrastinating, because actually the reason is just that you need to slow down, or you need to just kind of do less or take a bit of a break. And the universe is actually sending you a downward turn in your energy, or it's sending you some sort of event that is actually forcing you to slow down. So sometimes, what we should be doing is, rather than kind of looking for reasons as to... So a really good example of this, quite a few years ago now, my dad ended up very, very poorly in hospital with heart failure. And it turned out that he actually needed to have a heart transplant. And before we kind of found out this news that he needed to have this heart transplant, I at the time was living in London and my parents are from up north. And so I was traveling pretty frequently to go and visit my dad up north. And what was really interesting at the time, it was almost as if by magic that I experienced a slowdown within my business. And I had at the time I was doing a lot of one-on-one coaching, right? So I had a few one-on-one clients that messaged me. I had one that messaged me and just decided that she was due to start working with me, I think sort of a month later. And she ended up saying that it wasn't the right time for her. And so we decided to kind of connect again the following year. And then I had another client who had been kind of working with me for a while, who said that she needed to put her coaching on pause for a little bit. I also noticed that I was just getting a lot fewer people reaching out to me to book discovery calls. So I was getting fewer inquiries about my coaching. And often when we experience this as a business owner, especially in the early days, because I was still pretty new to coaching at this point, I started to panic. I started to think, oh my goodness, my business is slowing down, it's losing momentum. And I also was kind of feeling not necessarily my most energetic self within my business either. I didn't feel like I kind of felt like I'd lost my spark a little bit within my business. So I kind of felt energetically not with it within my business. I felt like I was kind of losing momentum within my business. And at the time, it was a time when I was needing to go up to spend time with my parents and be there for my mum and things. And I realized, and it took me a while to realize this, that this was my gift. This was my gift from the universe. This turn down, this slowdown in momentum in terms of clients, in terms of my own energy, was my little nudge from the universe that I needed to create space energetically for something else at that point in my life. What was on a surface level seeming like a bad thing, my energy not there, the clients sort of drying up, actually was a blessing, okay? It was a blessing in disguise, and it was a gift from the universe. Now, just like seasons come and go, so do your seasons within your life as well. So it's reminding yourself that no season is going to last forever. So if you are going through a period right now where perhaps you are feeling unmotivated, or something has come up that has slowed down your progress, know that this too shall pass. It's not going to be a forever thing. When it comes to motivation, I just want to kind of say something here, because I'm somebody typically who's pretty much all the time quite motivated. Like, I'm quite excited about, my work, and, I'm fortunate that I found something that I really, really love. And so, it's very easy for me to stay motivated when it comes to my business and kind of to my life and the things that I'm doing. But there's definitely times when, again, it just sometimes will feel like out of the blue, I completely lose that motivation. Okay. And the saying that I like to remind myself of is, nothing blooms all year round, and neither should you. So to kind of put the pressure on yourself to constantly be your most motivated self, your most high vibe self, your most productive self, is actually forgetting that we are human, okay? And humans have to go through the full breadth of the human emotion to have that full human experience, Okay, we have to know what feeling unmotivated is to kind of be able to reap the rewards of the flip side of that. Okay, we have to kind of understand what darkness is to be able to truly appreciate what light is. Okay, we need to have this contrast between, what often we label as the negative things and the positive things. But again, I want to kind of invite you to kind of get rid of those labels, feeling unmotivated is bad. Because whilst on a surface level, it may seem that way, you may be thinking, I'm not doing as much as what I want to do, but there will be some good in slowing down as well. Those moments when you feel you're least energized, you're least motivated, those times there can be so much room for growth, so much opportunity for you to learn something about yourself. And I look at those times when I do have a zap of energy. So take, for example, me getting pregnant and I was forced to slow down. I saw that as a good thing because all of a sudden it was like, right, okay, well, now is my permission to just do nothing within my business because I know that whatever I do, it's not going to be my best work. I'm not going to be, my heart's not going to be 100% in it because I'm not going to be feeling great. And so this is my invitation to actually do nothing and actually just really fully embrace this season for what it is. So this is something you can ask yourself, if I'm feeling this way right now, what would being self-compassionate to myself look like? How can I embrace this moment for what it is rather than complaining about what it isn't? Okay. Now, something that I kind of battled with is how do you know the difference between when you're meant to just embrace the season you're in and just kind of go with it and just go with the fact that you aren't feeling motivated or something's come up and you're not wanting to move forward with something. How can we just trust and embrace, or how can we identify when to just embrace that season or when we should be poking into it a little bit more and figuring out, well, am I perhaps self-sabotaging here? Okay, am I perhaps just using this as an excuse as to not do something? Because it's so easy if life throws you a bit of a curveball, especially if it's something you're afraid of. So let's say, for example, you are wanting to start a business or it's something new and something scary that you're wanting to do. And all of a sudden life throws you a curveball. It's so easy sometimes to use that as an excuse for not taking action. Oh, well, this has come up in my life, therefore I can't move forwards with my business. And how do we then know the difference of what we're supposed to just accept and embrace and kind of roll with and what we should actually be challenging ourselves on? Because if every setback we faced in life, if we kind of took that as, oh, well, it means I should do nothing, that's not always the solution either. Because often, these setbacks, we can use them as an excuse or a reason not to move forwards, to procrastinate. They become our reasons for self-sabotage, okay? And then we don't move forwards at all. So it's how do you know the difference? And this is something that I've really, really battled with, It's like, well, how do I know that if I'm just self-sabotaging here or whether I just genuinely need to slow down and just rest? How do you know? And I think and this isn't something you necessarily perhaps will be able to do right away because I think it's almost like a muscle that you can build over time. And it's really checking in and seeing where that voice that's telling you to do something or to not do something, where is that voice coming from? Is that voice coming from this place of love and understanding? Is it coming from your higher self? Or is it coming from that place of fear? Is it an ego-driven voice? And you will learn to understand the cues for yourself and kind of what your voice, how your different voices speak to you in. But silence is the key here, because when you are faced with a decision to do something or to not do something, what is the lesson I'm being taught here? When you get in silence, when you sit in silence, maybe you meditate or just take some time for yourself and start to really listen to what is going on internally, you can start to hear the different voices that are speaking to you. And for me, I know the difference because the voice of my higher self, the voice of love, when it's a decision that's coming from that place of love and self-compassion, it just sounds more gentle. It sounds calmer. Whereas my voice of the ego, the voice of panic, the voice of fear, it sounds rushed, it sounds frantic. So let me give you an example. Let's say, for example, going back to me finding out I was pregnant. That voice of love and compassion, my higher self, when my higher self was talking to me, was saying, okay, just breathe now. You're pregnant. Enjoy this, these early days connecting with the new life that is growing inside you. Rest, take time for yourself, take the pressure off and just let go. Just surrender to this moment. You're here right now. It's not going to last forever. The voice of the ego is saying, well, you've been pregnant before. You know what to expect. And there's things that you need to get done. So yes, you might be tired, but you can find that little bit of energy within you to actually show up today. Yes, you might be exhausted. Yes, you might be feeling sick, but that doesn't mean that everything needs to be put on the back burner. Don't use this as an opportunity to self-sabotage. It almost speaks in this quite kind of aggressive sort of motivating way, not that sort of loving, gentle, compassionate type of motivation. So it's learning to understand the difference between what is driving you. So in that moment when you're feeling unmotivated, when you think about perhaps taking action, what is the voice? What are the different voices telling you there? Okay, start to pay attention. And it's the voice of your higher self that you want to be speaking to. And there may be moments when perhaps you experience a setback and you say, well, okay, maybe this is my sign that I'm supposed to slow down. But actually your higher voice is saying, well, maybe this could be your opportunity, as a way to use this as a catalyst for growth. Maybe something really amazing could come off the back of this. Like, what can this teach you? Why don't you start exploring those patterns of self-sabotage rather than just resigning yourself to the fact that, this is a setback for me and I have to slow down. Okay, so start to pay attention to those voices. But as I said, the thing that I find always the most comforting is just knowing that a season does not need to last forever. You will come out the other side and you're perhaps not going to know right now when that will be. Okay? And I found for me with all my pregnancies, they've been so different. Like with Rafi, that first sort of trimester was, not too long. With Atticus, it felt like it was dragging on forever. It was pretty much until I got to the third trimester that I was exhausted for. And the worst thing that we can do is just try and rush through our seasons. We just have to sometimes go with it. If we know, because our higher self is telling us that this is the season we're meant to be in and it's okay to be here, you just need to fully embrace it for what it is. No judgment. No, beating yourself up for being there. This too shall pass, remember? And, once you come out the other side, know and trust that you are going to be ready for that next chapter. You are going to be, replenished. You are going to have learned something. You are going to be rested. You're going to have that new sense of motivation. It will come. It will come. So I hope that gave some of you some sort of, maybe sort of comfort today. If any of you are experiencing a season of slowdown or a bit of a downturn or, a lack of motivation or something else, whatever it is, sometimes it's okay to be there. Okay, so yes, relax into it a little bit more. I hope you enjoyed this episode, ladies. If you have any questions or just want to say hello, remember, you can contact me, Dani_Watson_coaching. I love to connect with you all and receive all your messages on Instagram there. So yes, I will catch you on the next episode. Bye, ladies. If you are wanting to build your own successful online coaching business, make sure to check out Freedom, Abundance and Impact, our free 10-day business and mindset course for coaches and aspiring coaches. To access, simply head to wearetheclique.com and click free course in the menu.